Did the CIA create Bitcoin? You could maybe hear it in my voice there. Yes, I am laughing about this. It is a laughable idea. Ultimately, it doesn't matter who created Bitcoin, and I know a lot of people might think that it does, and I'm going to explain why it doesn't. And we're going to check out what Tucker Carlson thinks. My name's Forrest Total. I'm a Bitcoin educator. And if you want to book a one-on-one session with me to learn more about Bitcoin, to cover your Bitcoin security best practices, inheritance planning, and if you have any questions that you can't find answers to, you can book me for a session on my website, which is linked below, pathtobitcoin.xyz, where you can book me to help you guide yourself to Bitcoin mastery. So this is a little viral video that Tucker Carlson is in, who is everybody's favorite propagandist, I would say. And there's a lot of people in Bitcoin that love this guy. I'm not sure why. He's been caught lying multiple times. He is not really a good faith actor, in my opinion. That being said, it's not really, this video is not necessarily about like what I think about him, right? It doesn't matter what I think about him. I'm going to roast him because of that. But ultimately, we're going to talk about what he says here. So let's check out this video together, and I'll tell you what I think about the CIA creating Bitcoin.
And nobody can explain to me who Satoshi was, the creator of Bitcoin, this mysterious guy who apparently died, but nobody knows who he was. You know, I grew up in DC primarily in a government family, so CIA. That's my guess. Can't prove it, but like, you're telling me to invest in something whose founder is like mysterious and has billions of dollars of unused Bitcoin. Like, what is that? And no one can answer the question, including some of the biggest holders of Bitcoin in the world. Do I know personally? They're like, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters to me, right?
He mentioned how you should know about something that you're going to invest in. Now, if somebody is explaining this to somebody and they're saying, you got to invest in Bitcoin, you got to invest in Bitcoin, they're probably pretty early into their Bitcoin journey, because as you learn, Bitcoin is not an investment. An investment is something where you're looking at a future return on your initial capital you have invested, right? That you've put into the project. And you're hoping to extract that value out at some time. And typically investments are into a cash flowing business or a property, which again will cash flow or appreciate in value. Bitcoin is money. Money is not an investment. Yes, you can speculatively trade between currencies, or maybe money if we want to just group them into that definition, but you're not investing in a money. You're speculatively trading it, or you're holding it as money, as a store of value function, as a medium of exchange function, as a unit of account function. So right there, nobody should be asking him to invest in Bitcoin, because it is not an investment. Bitcoin is code, right? There's two things with Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin, the unit, and the value that we transfer over the second part of Bitcoin, which is the Bitcoin network. The Bitcoin network is the largest computing network in the world. It is run at home on many different little home servers, a big full Bitcoin node, and it is, and the rules that we are all running are consensus between all of those nodes, and the rules are being enforced and validated by the largest computing network in the world, which are the miners, right? The electricity going into the hash rate, which is protecting against double spending attacks on the monetary network of Bitcoin, right? Making sure that there isn't reorganizations of blocks to benefit one person. And this is protected by, again, the largest mining network in the world, the largest electrical network in the world, largest computing network in the world. There's all of that, right? Let's go to the idea of the CIA inventing Bitcoin. Now, I think there's a small connection for the 80 IQ people out there. You might think, okay, well, the NSA, the CIA, they've been involved in, the creation of technologies like certain aspects of cryptography and different, the internet was invented by, basically this network, a small network of, government organizations that would want to communicate privately to each other. The Tor was developed or is being developed in part by the government as well. So there's this idea that these systems are built on by the government entirely, right? Which is just not true. Technology, there's a technological side of the government that invests in certain types of technology with their manpower, with their money, and they create technologies, and those technologies work themselves into the public. And the public takes those technologies and builds businesses or builds additional technology on top of those. And that is more likely the case with Bitcoin. So let's just say the CIA did create Bitcoin. They created an open permissionless network that anybody can join, that people can transact value around all over the world without capital controls and without permission from anybody else, a completely open and voluntary network for people to join. Sure, that sounds like something that the CIA would want to control, that they'd want to create. They cannot control it. I almost slipped up and said control. Nobody controls the Bitcoin network. It is decentralized, and therefore all actors participate in the control of Bitcoin, but no one entity controls Bitcoin. They created something that is open source, that is verifiable. You can go in and check the code out and see what it is, and you can decide whether or not to use it. Essentially, it doesn't matter who created Bitcoin. It matters what it is. It matters what it is. And what Bitcoin is again, a permissionless, censorship, open network with a public ledger, right? And this is the aspect, I think, that people start thinking, oh, well, the NSA or the CIA did create it because it's a public ledger and it has no privacy for individuals. But it is as private as digital cash can be without opening itself up to additional vulnerabilities that additional privacy entails. And Bitcoin is by nature pseudonymous, which means that there is no identity with a wallet unless you have some additional identification that connects you to that wallet. So the way that it now works is KYC and non-KYC. So if you buy Bitcoin through an exchange, you're identifying yourself on that exchange, and you're sending yourself Bitcoin from that exchange to your own wallet. And therefore, there's this data silo within your exchange that has that information. But you look on the Bitcoin network, you look on mempool.space, good luck identifying somebody without an incredible amount of information given to you or stolen from an exchange. It's very difficult to just look at an address and be like, yeah, that's Billy Bob's address right there, right? You need additional information because of the pseudonymous nature of Bitcoin. So it is not anonymous, but it is pseudonymous. And that means that there's the ability to interact with it anonymously. Because if you haven't connected yourself to that Bitcoin, you could transact with it in a way that keeps your privacy intact, just as is the case with cash, right? Bitcoin's initial proposition is peer-to-peer digital cash, and that is essentially what it is. You can identify yourself with cash transactions, or you can remain anonymous as well. And it's possible that when you take out cash from a bank, right? That's basically KYC'd cash, and now cash can be used after that, but there's sort of the paper trail ends on the withdrawal of that. Now you can sort of link transactions all the way back to a KYC transaction unless you add additional privacy features, but all of that is possible, right? It is possible to de-link yourself from your transactions. Now, why would the CIA that wants intelligence on actors, right, on people, why would they create something with the possibility of being able to transact anonymously? Why would they do that, right? What is the incentive here? And again, it doesn't matter if they did, because they've created something that can now be used in a way that I'm sure they wouldn't like. The other thing that's quite funny about this, tragically funny, is that this concept of not knowing who created Bitcoin and that being of some importance, keeping you away from Bitcoin itself, from holding Bitcoin, owning Bitcoin, and using Bitcoin, that the other option you have is to use something that was created by the government, right? Currency units, the Fed credits we all have, Canadian dollars, American dollars. We know where these are created. We know who creates them, right? And it's the exact people that are curious about what our activity is with them. It's people that want to control your spending habits, your where you send it. There's capital controls all over the place. So you can either adopt an asset like Bitcoin, a money like Bitcoin, that you don't know who started it, and ultimately it doesn't matter because of what it is. That's the ultimate thing that I'm trying to say here, is it doesn't matter who because of what, right? It doesn't matter who created it because of what it is today. And what it is today is a monetary network that exists completely outside of dollars and the fiat system, and you can operate 100% within there, send value peer-to-peer without anybody stopping you and controlling you. And whether people know it's you or not, ultimately, that's assumptions that have to be made at a certain point as well. That's something that maybe you should look deeper into about what an on-chain transaction ends up looking like, and if it's going to another wallet, and there's a lot of assumptions that have to be made by anybody that's sort of tracking that, and there's no absolute guarantee that they know what's going on there. So you either adopt that network, or you adopt a network that is completely controlled by who you're afraid created Bitcoin, essentially. I mean, the CIA and the Federal Reserve and stuff aren't exactly the same, but they're part of the same organization base overall, right? So it's like they think it's this idea of like stick with the devil you know as opposed to the devil you don't. But when you really start looking into Bitcoin and you understand that this was designed to keep people accountable. There's a reason the ledger is public, right? There's a reason the ledger is public, and it's so that there's accountability, so that there's no way that somebody can falsify records. We can all keep everyone that uses the network accountable. And that is in direct comparison to a monetary network like the fiat monetary network that has no accountability, where you get rewarded as a bank for taking on additional risk and by losing all the money, because you also will get the bailout money. You'll get more free money, and you benefit when everybody else, all the taxpayers, all the savers, everyone else gets wrecked because of it. So you think you're sticking with the devil you know as opposed to the devil you don't. However, when you look at what Bitcoin is, you understand that whoever created it did it should be seen as basically a hero, right? Whoever Satoshi was created something that will empower the future world and has given hope to millions and will continue to do so in creating a fair monetary network. And they did so seemingly without necessarily having a reward for doing so. So it's the most altruistic, it's the biggest sacrifice that I can quantify. And the unknown aspect of who Satoshi is part of the lore, it's part of the story, and you can explore it if you want, but ultimately it doesn't matter who Satoshi was. And it doesn't matter if he's still alive. It doesn't matter at all, because of what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin allows us to do and what Bitcoin gives us as individuals. So hopefully this was entertaining. Send this to your wacky uncle who thinks the NSA created Bitcoin or CIA created Bitcoin. And that's it. Thanks everybody for watching. Again, you can book me for a one-on-one coaching. Link is in the description. There's also a link if you guys want to pick up some Bitcoin. You can do so through the Bitcoin Well. They're the best exchange in my eyes. And by signing up using my link, you'll actually get free Bitcoin on sign up. Not much of that going around, so check it out. And there's 15% off the Stampseed kit, 5% off of the Start 9 to run your own node. There's a link to the Coldcard Hardware wallet and a few other links. Every link that you need as a Bitcoiner is in the description, so check that out. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Bitcoin, Not Crypto.